Right. Well, hopefully, connection will work this time. There you go. Back in focus. And I'm going to do. I just had a word with ChatGPT, right, my new best friend, and they said that I should do videos in such a way. Right. So. I talked about it this morning when I did this, talking about feeling. Drawing is making marks that capture what you see, driven by what you feel, is what my motto is, if you like. Anyway, ChatGPT seems to think that it knows better than me. There you go, AI at its worst. So I'm going to follow the predicted, because I said to ChatGPT, tell me how to succeed on YouTube, and they said, and we have had this conversation. Bloody amazing. I'm talking to nobody, and it thinks it knows more than I do. And so I'm going to, because it obviously speaks to other computer language, it knows more than what the computer wants than I do. So, which is what a crazy world that is. Pleasing the computers. So I will reiterate, if you like, and those of you have heard me say this many times, so I do apologise for this repetition of. It's not about what you see; it's about what you feel, and that's that's the fundamental thing. Is and everything you do, everything that let me turn the light on. Hold on. I think I'm a bit in the dark. Somewhere there's a switch on here. There you go. That's a bit better, isn't it? And move the camera a little bit, and this is obviously high tech, and on ChatGPT it actually told me what to talk about. So, like a script. Yeah, right. So this I'm going to do it in these with these pastels, and these oil pastels, because I'll tell you why. Because I've not put them away yet. So that's a very, it's quite a significant thing. Not put them away yet, so I'm going to use them. But this thing of feeling, and I said it this morning. I'm saying, oh no, this fella here, look, this old fella here, and I think it's the one thing that is overlooked. It's like when you see these people doing portraits, and they always sort of talk about capturing the emotion at some other stage other than in the beginning stage, when they're too busy trying to draft the thing. And I often wonder why that is. It's probably because it's just, as I've said, a production, a process that they go through to create or to capture the face, the person, the thing. The emotional side of it, capturing the emotional side of it is probably just a component to them, just like capturing the hair. As I said, I've seen it quite often where they're trying to contrive, the capturing of the essence, the capturing of the humanness of somebody, and they'll talk about moods and things, and because the thing about it is with when we're talking about capturing emotion, people like resort to somebody crying or laughing or and call, because that's that's emotion, surely. But it's so much deeper than that, and it's the subtleties of everything. Now, as humans, we've got this skill. We have this amazing skill to read people because of so many things, not just body languages. There's other things as well, sight and smell, and you know what I mean. All the other things. We're primitive animals. It's got to be more to it than just whether or not they cross the legs. You know what I mean? It's there's so much more. And I always think that those body language experts, it's all about arms folded and cross legs things. And what's that thing that people are supposed to do? Posture modelling or posture replication or something like that when you like somebody. And I've got a friend who's into it, and it just winds me up. It's like the NLP stuff. It just winds me up because it's like it's a bit more sophisticated, mate. They can't. There's no formula to this. And this is what I'm saying about the the human response thing. You have this amazing skill to be able to see and detect someone's emotional state. Imagine that being the driver behind what you do. I mean, I don't care about whether or not your lines are straight or whether you've got the right colours in there. Just imagine the power of that. And it doesn't matter who you are, and whether or not you've been to Florence Academy or whether or not you've been down the road to a local art group. It doesn't make any difference. If you can harness that one thing, then you've succeeded. There's no fancy tuition that's going to make you any better or improve on that one thing. And people are kind of this is the one. I mean, I'm as I said this morning, I suppose I'm emotionally driven, which I think all artists should be, passionate and everything else. And that's the one thing that has become apparent with me doing this. I mean, my response, my termination of my artistic license in 1989 was an emotional thing. It was an emotional, albeit childish, but it was still an emotional thing. Well, you can go and get stuff then if you don't want what I do. And it was kind of like that, but more, it was kind of go and get stuff because you're hurting me. It hurts when that's what it was. But not, set on fire kind of hurt. It was just my creativity was being damaged. And knowing that, I decided that enough was enough. So it was an emotional thing to say, I'm not doing this anymore. And unwittingly triggering what was a 30-year drought, and ultimately, when I returned, the emotional aspect of it was paramount to me. In that, the reason, the motive, and all the rest of it. But although that was wrapped up in the pursuit of joy, so which was triggered by the cancer. So it was like all these things. You can read into them all you like, but all these things were, contributing factors. And that, as I said, is how I arrived at this is an emotional thing, and why, for some real strange reason, that I can seem only attracted to drawing faces. When I draw bodies, unless it's more than just a body, I'm just bored with it. I see these like people that will draw somebody sat on a chair, and I'm just not interested. It just like, why is that? It's just shapes on a chair wrapped in fabric. I don't know why. I don't know why I feel like that. I just, there's something about faces that is the thing that I can connect with best, because there's so many components within it that manifest the essence, whether it's the pose or the light or the squint or whatever. There just seems to be much more to it than just the mechanical, the bits in the right place kind of thing. And it also, I think, allows for this, and you've seen this with the pastels that I've been doing. It also allows for this response aspect, playing, the aspect of my response being determined by my emotional feeling towards something, and allowing the unexpected, intentional to play a role in that, because the talking about this human connection thing, because I feel a certain way towards it. I think that one of the things that I would say when you're drawing things, I'm sort of sketching this out as to get things in the right place and whatever, but when you're drawing things, whether it or painting things or whatever, if there is a disconnect between you and the thing, and it just becomes about getting things in the right place, you'll drift towards the execution, and you'll drift towards execution as being the definition of success of something, and unfortunately, the execution will be determined by your perception of things. Your having seen somebody do it in a particular way, or having been told that defines something as being good. You drift towards those things and remove the opportunity for it to be your personal response, and all of that means, because that ultimately is the only way you'll create something meaningful, is if it's your personal response. If it's a response that's predetermined and defined by other people's instruction of what portrait should be, then it's only ever going to be somebody else, a poor copy of somebody else's execution, and that you don't want that. Even you're better to have a complete failure, something that just doesn't work, and either physically or in an emotional way, than have something that's just simply a replication of somebody else's style or somebody else's way of doing this. Because style is an empty vessel. Style isn't the thing that makes a work great. It's not. It's just makes the work what it is. It's not the style of it is just insignificant in a way. But people get bogged down with that and focus too much on the idea of a style being a denoter of something. But the problem, as I say, is that if you lose connection with the subject, if you no longer feel the subject, then you're going to drift towards that. It's always going to drift towards production. If I get past a certain stage with a drawing, and which is normally the stage when I should stop, I run the risk of overproducing something, of it becoming production and not my response, my expression. It's always the case. I can't really, and it's a real struggle sometimes with that. The I don't know if it's desire, but the idea of an outcome will sometimes be infected, or the outcome will sometimes be infected by outward influences. And I've talked about infection before. The when you look at stuff on Instagram or on Pinterest or on Facebook, and you see this amazing work, you've got to be really careful about how that impacts on you. You've got to just admire it and forget it, is kind of what I'd say. But the trouble is, it's hard to do that. Some of the work is just astounding, and it will, unfortunately, influence you in some way. Which is when people say, "Oh, you've got artist block," you want to go and look at the work of others and see what. It's the worst thing you could do. You've got artist block because of other people, not because of your own desires, and not because of your own creative intention. It's not your own creative intention is perfectly happy to exist in a world of its own, and as a child would. And this is the thing when I talk about the curious child. It's you as a curious child, you were perfectly happy with the cow that you drew until your dad came along and said, "That don't look anything like a cow," and then all of a sudden your world's shattered. So this idea of looking at other people's work in a way to try and fix your block, if there is such a thing, and I don't think there is, but that's what people believe, is a nonsense. It's never gonna help that. Other people's skills and other people's abilities are not really your concern. They're not really. I mean, you can just, as I said, just admire what they do. There's some absolutely amazing artists out there, and that's great. I'm really pleased for them. But do I give a toss? Not really. And neither should you. I don't. It's not. Whether they're great or not. Whether the worst one is that these people are designated as being good. The ones that win the competitions, that win the blooming exhibition things, and this prize and that prize. Who gives a damn? It's not. You know what I mean? It's just not important. But that, as I said, the problem is with the. I do like drawing with things that really aren't great for drawing with, because you get this. I mean, there's a problem with a thingy imbalance, a tonal imbalance thing. But you get into a place where it's going to have to be orange, I'm afraid. Because that's all I've got at the moment. There's some wacky colour, wacky oranges, and that, I've got orange hold on in it. Yeah, you get sort of bombarded with everybody else's perception of what is good, and it's just not helpful. Just take yourself away from it all and do your thing. And I tell you, my before I started doing all these, I mean, I do them so often now. It's getting silly. And before I did that, I was just doing it all the time, and I'm nothing other than just drawing, and mostly drawing, but sometimes painting, and without any concern for others' opinions or feedback or anything really. And the consequence was that I produced lots and lots and lots and lots of stuff, because I was just pleasing myself. It wasn't for anybody else, and it resulted in this pile of portraits, and I've got it now. I mean, I've done so many of these oils now that there are 23 of these things now, and it's just like. And that's the thing with this, with having a more of a realistic approach to this. It is about, as I say, your emotional response. That is the secret sauce, if you like, to understand the importance of your emotional response, and to tap into your skill that you've already got. That's the thing. This is the thing about the emotional response, is it's the skill you've already got, and that's mad. So you're not going to. This is the reason they don't talk about it in art college, because they're not going to go to art college and say, "Well, you don't need any skills because you've already got the skill you need, so you can bugger off and give you $9,000 a year," which is kind of what they do anyway. But they don't talk about whether or not you've already got skills. But tapping into that freedom that is. I already know what it is to connect with other people. I already know what my response is to other people. Tapping into that is such a liberating thing. And like I say, I'd done that, and I don't think I was tapping into the emotion in the way that I talk about it now. I just was doing it because I didn't need to think about it. So. There was no need for me to analyse what was happening. But what happened was that I ended up doing so many drawings, so many portraits, and mostly in charcoal, as I say, but some in oils, that it's become a kind of a touchstone for me, to go back to. And I love I've done so many, and this is probably the reason why it happens, but I love the idea of looking at what I've done and being impressed by it, and which is, I don't know if that's an egotistical thing, I don't know, but it's this thing of surprising yourself. I heard this guy saying that he always wanted to surprise himself, and when he stopped surprising himself, he'd stop making art. And I thought, well, that's sort of profound beyond belief, and it is exactly that. It's just You always want to surprise yourself because you're only doing it for yourself. So surprising yourself was the main goal, and that's kind of how I feel, and how I felt when I was revisiting all these portraits that I'd made, and consequently, it was like a realignment, a reset of how I approached portraits. All the technical stuff and all the stuff that I've been talking about recently with the I suppose techniques, using these things. I mean, I don't profess to be in any way, a technical person with equipment. I think I'm quite the opposite. I hate technical stuff. I hate the equipment being a component. I want to be. This is good, or it works because of me, not because of the right paper or the right pencil or the right paints or the right pastels. It's good because it's me that makes this special. You know what I mean? So, excuse me. Sorry, mate. Let me just hold my breath a minute while I just get a grasp on what's happening now. Going to a different stage with this now. So being technical again. So when I start to increase the density of things, there is and I'll talk about this again, technical. There is a natural imbalance in your visual comparison. One of the things, and I talked about it this morning, about the visual comparison being a major component in what we do. Because you see, there is balanced in there, and it works. You say it works as a drawing. But as soon as I introduce that, suddenly there's just something that's happening to everything else that almost needs, this is just fading away now. So I've got to address the imbalance. And measuring it, not until I get to a certain stage would I consider upping the strength of things. I want it to be consistently measured. The idea of tones being, we'll get the darks in first and so on and so forth, that for me is completely, I just don't understand that at all, because of this visual comparison thing. It probably works if you're doing the outlines and colouring in, but for me, I need my visual comparison to be accurate, so therefore I don't need anything that this imbalance creates an imbalance. So my focus, it disrupts my focus basically. So as I said, the technical stuff is a consequence of my approach. It's not, the things I do, the skills I've developed are all as a part of my response. They're a consequence of my response to something, not a deliberate learning that occurred before I set about doing this. So I didn't have to have a set of skills in order to, before I could start doing this. The skills came as I started doing it. So, and that more natural way of working. But the emotional side of it for me is I think something that is really underestimated. It's probably the single most important thing that makes a portrait work. Even if you're a by the rules kind of construction kind of portrait artist, you still have that need, that desire, that requirement to capture the essence of somebody in order for your portrait to work. If no matter how well you render the brocade on their jacket or eyelashes, you still have that need for it to feel emotionally right. It's just one of them things. It's got to feel like them. All great portraits feel like the person that they're meant to be. They don't just look like the person. It's probably why people adorn portraits with things that relate to that person's character, because they're trying to imbue the persona in their painting. But great paintings, you'll look at some great paintings like Sargent's individual heads. You look at some of those, or Saroy, or Ozone, look at some of those, and they're just simple heads, but they are, there's everything that's said about that person in those few strokes. Now, to be able to get, I talked about that this morning, about the life in a portrait. In order to get that life in a portrait, it has to be at the beginning. It doesn't enter at any other point. And people say, "Oh, I prefer it in the early stages." The reason why, more often than not, is because they prefer a more looser execution. So I don't know. I think that it's a bit of a not a cliche, but it's like one of those things. Oh yeah, I want to be a looser style, and I like it because it's looser, and this, that, and the other. And I think the real reason is that people can see their honest response in those early stages, because that's what it is. That's what's in those early stages of, when you're drawing, in those early stages, it's like, it's just, you're alive with it, aren't you? You're excited by it. And I want that excitement all the time. The thing is that I'm always excited when I'm making a portrait. It's every time I do it, I'm excited by doing it, and I never want that to go away. And that's the thing. It's it can easily go away. It can easily go away for me, because if I allow it to be more than just my response, so it becomes about the execution, about the way I render things, then it certainly will get driven away. So I'll not be excited by that. I'm not excited by or impressed by execution. I never have been, simply because back in the day I could do it anyway, and it was just a matter of time and patience. It wasn't a great skill. Anybody could do it. But I'm thinking pink at the moment, but I don't know which pink to use. I have got 2 pinks. What a pale pink. I might use the pale pink, because I think the other pink's going to just be closer to red. So anyway, this is the pink. On another note, and I've just been talking to Jackson. Jackson uses oil pastels in his, which is where I got these from. I nicked them from him. So and then he had to buy some more. But we were talking about the stages of the oil pastels. There is this stage and this stage, which I quite like. Somebody sent me something this morning, and I quite like this sketchy sort of, because like charcoal, it breaks up as you make the marks, and I like that. And then there's the other stage where the charcoal, the oils start to get a bit more dense and a bit more surface. You know what I mean? You start to put this. You put like her lips, for instance. That quality is now gone, and now we're into this real sticky, lumpy veneer of oil pastel, or oil, whatever oil pastel is. It must be like oil paint but thick. So that's getting, and that's the sort of, for me, as I said, there's kind of 2 stages, and when it gets into that other stage, I quite like it, because it gets all sticky and even less accurate, because that's the thing. So I'm wrestling with her eyes this morning to get them to be, and it's getting sticky, and there's just no lines on it, and all the time I'm thinking, that's fantastic, is this doing that? And I've no option but to go with it. But that and I said to somebody now, and they were talking about oil pastels. I said oil pastels. I said this morning, it's compromise and acceptance. That's it. You've got to compromise in what you can and can't do with them, and accept whatever it does. Is the trick to using these things. But the I'm going yellow now. I need a yellow for the beard. Oh, not the beard, the parts of the beard anyway. It's down here. Probably not yellow enough for that. I don't know though. There's a bit of brown in there as well. But I'm not going to go colour-wise. I'm not too bothered about the colour. I'm more bothered about the tones of it. But I've got these colours, so I'm going to use these colours. I haven't got white and blue and things. Excuse me. So, yeah, the emotional side of things is one of those unspoken things. And when it comes to people, assume that you're emotionally driven to do this. People assume that, and yeah, they're right to assume, because we're emotionally driven. But we don't let that be a major part in our execution. We just think that's the reason. We're just because we're emotionally driven to make or create. But we don't use that to fuel the execution side of it, so to speak. We just use it as a motive. I just have to get these bits feeling right before I can ramble anymore. As I said, the purpose of this is because ChatGPT said that this is how to build a channel. So listen to it. I tell you, I just think it's so weird. I mean, it's weird that I had a conversation with a bit of software when I spent my life programming this stuff. So never thinking that one day. I mean, I tell you, if I was doing it now, I'd be all over ChatGPT. It would help me immensely. I spent God knows how long programming things, sort of data applications and what have you, and fighting with code to make it do what I wanted it to do, and because different languages different things and all that sort of stuff, and just fighting with it to make it do what mainly what the client wanted it to do, although it was, I was the architect and the designer, so but there was always that just that problem that is inherent in software that unfortunately will be inherent in AI, and is that the people that created it in the first place had a certain bias towards something. I mean, the classic is the using the and the plus sign in PHP, and not because they used it once they couldn't use it again, so we ended up having to use two when we wanted to make some kind of formula that added things together. So because somebody not thought it through properly, it was a bit like remember the Millennium Bug thing, because somebody not thought it through, that maybe one day these computers will be around long enough that we'll have to sort out the way it stores dates. It's that. So there's a lot of shallow thinking, and that's going to be in. Trust me, that's going to be in the AI as well. So a sobering thought, really. But anyway, as I said, the thing told me to do this, so this is what I'm doing. We'll see. It may well be that this is complete nonsense, and it doesn't. YouTube doesn't see me any better or any different than it did a week ago. But we'll see. I mean, I'm of the opinion that it is just a stupid thing, because I know from the point of view of when clients asked us to write an algorithm to work out and predict sales for, the next whatever, we do as little as possible to make it happen. and make it as pretty as possible so they can understand it. You know, the charts thing. When they were wonderful, the charts. Clients love charts. You know, they love. Oh, they can take them into a presentation to show the governors and the bosses exactly what they've been up to, and rather than just going in and saying, you know, we've made this and it's brilliant and we're in profit, and it's only my biggest problem was that they'd always try to drive us down, and it was, how cheap can you do it, because we want to make a lot of money out of it. Classic example of one client where I charged him 1,200 quid, not that long ago, but long enough, and he made £3 million out of it. So that those kind of wins for clients they were like gold, you know. Not for me, like, because it was me who did all the graft and me that made it happen, and you know, it's not enjoyable, really. But anyway, I digress. I don't think we can underestimate the emotional side of doing this. You can't underestimate the importance of the emotional side of doing this, because we as creatives, we're emotional beings anyway. I know we're very, you know, you tell me you're not more sensitive, or you feel to be more, you're likely more sensitive in the emotional sense than most, because we do. It's how we are, and that's probably why it plays into a lot of artists' work, that it is more of an emotional thing, and the subjects they choose, especially if they're you know, imaginative stuff, it's going to be a much more emotional content. It's going to be they're going to feel more emotionally attached to it, and so on and so forth. So, and unfortunately, a lot of people then sort of exploit that as a thing, as in, you know, I could tell you what kind of artist I'm talking about, but you'd probably guess that it's about a certain kind of artists that do these emotional. I'm struggling to explain what this is because I don't want to offend anybody, but let's just say emotional artwork, you know, and I'm going to leave it at that because I really don't want to offend anybody. But it's probably why it's not something that's so well talked about or taught in schools, because those kind of artists have cornered the market on the emotional side of things, and to many academics, they're not deemed to be proper artists. I mean, they are. I mean, let's face it. Whoever makes something, whoever creates something, is an artist in my book. It's not a case of there are some that are and some that aren't. I think all of us that create are artists. End of. But as I said, the emotional side of things has always been a bit of a kind of a lesser art to some people. As I said, to me, it's not. It's just as important. And as I said, the whole point of what I'm trying to say and get across is this human emotion thing. But I'm thinking more in terms of the emotion of the subject than my emotions. I'm just thinking about my skill to pick up on emotions and then manifest that I pick up in the portrait that I create, and for it to be driven by that emotional response. So that's not really about my emotions. That's about my emotional response, which, as I said earlier, this is the key to it all. Really, the fact that you can and I can emotionally respond to somebody, and it's something I've been able to do since, I was in the cot, because that's what we did. Somebody looked in the cot, you in the cot, and you could emotionally respond to them. You learned to do that as a baby. So before I ramble too much and excuse me, get accused of pontificating again, I'm going to fix the tones of everything. I need to, and which is interesting because the top of his cap is like a tweed, so it's got a speckly effect on it. And funny enough, it's what the oil pastels do when I don't place any pressure on it. It creates that speckled effect. So I'm going to work with that and exploit that. So I'm kind of at the stage where balance is the objective of it now, to get the balance of everything. And I'm also at the stage of exactly how far am I going to go with this. The face is just about right, apart from increasing darkness and things in places, and this is just all these sort of odd marks that I need to make. But everything else is about right. And now all I need to do is to fix the tones, fix the balance of tones. But because of the a more progressive evolutionary approach to the tone, applying the tones, it is a gradual thing. I don't have to. You see how that's starting to work there. It now starts to look right as the shadow comes. This still looks a little bit light, and this darker fold, the crease in the cap there, just needs to go down, and we lost it there. You see, but once I get to a point where all those things are now starting to work, lost it completely there because there's no kind of rim on it as such. I just have to be careful not to take it too far, really. Remember, it's about priorities. And this is where the emotional thing comes back in again, because your emotion response to a face is the priority. Whatever that response is, it may be dislike, it might be aggression, it might be whatever it is that triggers your response. That's what's important. Focus only on that. Everything else is secondary to that. Everything else supports whatever that is. So just be careful that it doesn't become about this instead of about that, because often that's the case. People will focus on the wrong things and put all the work into the wrong things. But as I said, it has to be an evolution. It has to be gradually getting to the place where it starts to look right as it should. The problem with this is that blue is completely wrong. It's just too blue, and it needs to be more of a I don't know whether this is going to do it, but it needs to be more of a grey as such. But I don't mean grey in colour, grey in so it's getting better now, look. Grey in terms of its tonal density, not in terms of a colour. So, but you see, the thing is, I see as it evolves, I see what needs to be done in it, because I'm always connected to it. I'm connected to how does it feel right? Does it, the relationships thing, do they feel right? And that's probably what drives it. It's the colour thing. I mean, I'm not really trying to follow the colours. I can't, because I ain't got the colours. So that's not a concern really. But everything has a visual impact on it. Everything, to do with the feeling of it. So it doesn't matter whether or not it's the right colour. It's just whether it feels right. You see how it's changing now. Now that's to do with the tonal balance, and it's to do with the colour balance, if you like. The blue that was there before, that was just simply blue, which is I'm still using it, was just disrupting the relationships between the colours, and that, as I said, is I think that's probably to do with the presence. Using something like this. It happens with everything. It doesn't matter if it's charcoal or it's for this. There's always that relationship thing going on, which is what I was talking about this morning. But the being aware of how things are relating to each other, and the relationships between them is part and parcel, I think, of the emotional side of it. And I would say probably that I talked about it not being about my emotion. My emotion response to the drawing is a different thing. It is about that. It is about if I feel it's emotionally correct or whatever. If my emotion to it is right, and I think that's the instinct and intuition business, because I think that's probably something again that's underestimated. But it's always the trouble with instinct and intuition as being a sort of a yardstick, is that it's too dependent on your exposure to, doing this. If you've not had enough exposure across the board to all the possibilities, and you're stifled by comparisons to and expectations of the limited exposure you had, then you're always going to be fighting against that. You're always going to beating yourself up because it doesn't meet those expectations or those perceptions of what you think it should be. But anyway, so just going back to the emotional side of it, as I said, I'm doing this because of ChatGPT reckons YouTube will be more likely to share my videos and show my videos and so on. But it's good to just to reiterate what it is that I'm about. I think that's and people seem to think that it's about production. When I do things, it's all about how do you do that and what paper you're using and all the rest of it. And the truth is, I don't really care, and I'll pick up whatever I've got. And like I said, with these, I'm using these because they're at the side of me. I'm not putting them away yet, and that's the only reason that I'm using these. It's not through choice. Well, it is. It's Hobson's choice. If anybody remember that. But at the same time, I don't really care. I don't really care. I'll use these. I'll use anything. And again, that's back to the priority of what is it we're doing? Why are we doing this? And I'm doing this because I like to connect with other humans, and I like to connect with their essence, and I like to respond to how I feel about people, all those sort of things. So anyway, I'm going to leave it at that because I just want to straighten that up a bit. It's a bit of a mess, and maybe a little bit more effort into those bits there, but other than that, I'm going to leave it. I quite like all this in the middle there. As I said before, if I like it, that's enough. That's the only reason. Don't need to please anybody or do it to anybody's standard. I just like that, so it's going to stay. Right, so I will love and leave you. I can't remember what it said the next video I should do, but this one was, I had to establish this, the human element, and how important it was. So that was the first video that ChatGPT told me to do. Let's see what the next one is.